Have you ever met someone who smiles to your face, but secretly plots your downfall? It's not the loud enemies you should fear, it's the quiet ones. Not all hatred is obvious. Some people don't just dislike you, they want to see you fall. And the worst part, they won't announce it. They'll wait, they'll manipulate, and by the time you realize what's happening, it might already be too late. This isn't about paranoia, it's about awareness, about survival, because these people, they look just like friends, colleagues, even family, and if you don't recognize them in time, they'll drain you dry, emotionally, financially, even socially, before moving on to their next target. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 critical signs that separate mere dislike from true destruction. If you spot these red flags, don't ignore them. Recognizing them early could save you from years of manipulation, betrayal, or worse. So, do you really know who's on your side, or is someone waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Before we begin, if you're serious about mastering Stoic wisdom to protect yourself and build unshakable resilience, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Now let's get into it. 1. The silent observer. There's a reason the most dangerous threats aren't the ones that announce themselves. A predator that roars before it strikes gives its prey a chance to run. But the deadliest ones, they wait, they study, they blend into the background until the moment is right. And by the time you realize you were being watched, it's already too late. Some people don't just dislike you, they want to see you fall. But unlike an enemy who makes their hatred clear, these people don't need to insult you, threaten you, or make their intentions known. Instead, they operate in silence. I call them the silent observer. They're not just a nosy coworker who eavesdrops on office gossip or an ex who casually checks your social media from time to time. No, this is someone who studies you with precision, tracking your movements not out of curiosity, but with intention. And the scariest part, you rarely notice, because their goal is not confrontation, it's infiltration. Maybe you've already encountered one without realizing it. Ever had someone casually mention a place you've been, even though you never told them about it, or noticed a particular person appearing more and more in your daily routine, almost as if they know exactly where you'll be? At first it feels like a coincidence. You brush it off, but when it keeps happening, when they always seem to just be there, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And in today's world, tracking someone doesn't require effort, it just requires patience. You might not post about your daily routine, but your friends do. You don't announce your schedule, but people around you unknowingly provide the details. A silent observer doesn't need to hack your phone, they just need to pay attention. A friend tags you at a restaurant. A colleague mentions your gym in passing. A neighbor comments on your work schedule. Piece by piece, they build a map of your life, and once they have enough information, they begin to position themselves inside it. At first, it feels harmless. You keep running into them at the cafe you visit every morning. You notice them at the gym more often. Maybe they even start conversations, acting as if it's all random. But deep down, something feels off. Their timing is too perfect. Their presence too consistent. They know things they shouldn't. They appear where they don't belong. And yet, when you try to explain it to yourself, you hesitate. You don't want to seem paranoid. But this isn't paranoia. This is calculated surveillance. So, how do you protect yourself? You pay attention not with fear, but with awareness. Who always seems to be where you are? Who knows things they shouldn't? Who makes you feel uneasy? Even when nothing seems outright wrong, your instincts are rarely wrong. The human brain is wired to detect danger long before we consciously recognize it. That feeling in your gut that tells you something is off, it's there for a reason. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought. If you ignore the signs, if you dismiss your instincts, you allow the silent observer to remain invisible." And that's exactly what they want. The key to protection isn't paranoia, it's presence. It's understanding that while you can't control who watches you, you can control what they see. Break your patterns, change your routines. Be unpredictable. The more difficult you are to track, the less attractive you become as a target. And most importantly, trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is, and in a game where your safety may be at stake, the worst mistake you can make is assuming no one is watching. 2. The quiet betrayal. Not all attacks come with a warning. Some are slow, deliberate, and carefully hidden beneath the surface, like a toxin slipped into your drink, unnoticed until it's too late. The most dangerous enemies aren't the ones who openly challenge you. They're the ones who shake your hand while untying your shoelaces, watching as you trip over what seems to be your own missteps. Take Alex, for example. He was thriving at work, respected, productive, well-liked. It started subtly, a sudden shift in the way his manager spoke to him. Once eager for his ideas, now strangely indifferent. Colleagues who used to chat freely began offering only polite smiles, cutting conversations short. Invitations to team lunches quietly stopped. The work environment hadn't changed, but somehow he had become an outsider. At first, Alex blamed himself. Had he unknowingly offended someone? Was he misreading things? But as days turned into weeks, a pattern emerged. Small things, a joke taken the wrong way, a project credit quietly redirected, a comment about his attitude that no one could quite explain. It wasn't bad luck, it wasn't random. Someone had been working against him, not through open confrontation, but through whispers, careful distortions, and well-placed doubts. This is how betrayal works when it is crafted with patience. It doesn't strike like a hammer, it erodes like a slow leak, weakening the foundation beneath your feet. The person behind it rarely acts directly. Instead, they plant seeds and let others water them. A rumor here, a misinterpreted remark there, not outright lies, just enough half-truths to make people question, hesitate, pull back, and by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is done. The Stoics understood this kind of quiet sabotage well. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by advisors and senators who schemed behind his back, once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth." The world is full of people who follow perception over reality, who believe what is whispered rather than what is proven. If your self-worth is built on the opinions of others, you will always be at their mercy. But if it is rooted in something deeper, your integrity, your actions, your character, no rumor can shake it. The mistake most people make is assuming harm only comes in obvious forms. We think of betrayal as an act of war, but it often arrives disguised as concern, wrapped in the careful hands of a manipulator who never gets their own hands dirty. The goal is always the same: to leave you isolated, doubting yourself, easier to control, easier to remove. So, how do you protect yourself? First, understand that while your reputation is fragile, your character is unbreakable. Others may control how you are perceived, but they cannot change who you are. As Epictetus said, if someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself. Instead, live in such a way that no one will believe them. Do not waste time chasing rumors. Prove them false by the way you live. Second, observe without paranoia, but never ignore a pattern. If misunderstandings and conflicts always seem to surround a certain person, pay attention. If trust erodes around you without cause, look for the source. The wise do not accuse without reason, but they also do not ignore what is right in front of them. And finally, fortify your inner circle. A person who stands alone is easy to manipulate. Surround yourself with those who know your true nature, who see through deception, and who remain loyal, not because of rumors, but because of truth. Seneca warned, associate with those who make you a better man. The right people will recognize lies for what they are. Betrayal is rarely loud, but those who seek to undermine you can only succeed if you let their whispers define you. Stand firm, see clearly, and never, ever give an enemy more power than they deserve. 3. The mask of friendship. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who stands against you. It's the one who stands beside you, smiling, nodding, listening, all while quietly sharpening the knife. Betrayal rarely comes from a stranger. A stranger doesn't know where to strike. Betrayal comes from those who have earned your trust, those you've let into your world so deeply that by the time you realize their true nature, they already know exactly how to dismantle yours. Consider Adam, a man who prided himself on being careful with his trust. He was successful, respected, and had built his life on strong, genuine relationships. He wasn't naive. He knew the world could be cruel. But when he started his new business, he met Eric, a charismatic and seemingly supportive colleague. Eric was more than just helpful. He was always available, always listening, always eager to know more. He praised Adam's vision, encouraged his ideas, and quickly became someone Adam confided in. Within months, Eric wasn't just a business associate, he was a friend. He knew Adam's aspirations, his frustrations, even the things that kept him up at night. He met Adam's wife and kids, came over for dinners, played the role of a trusted confidant flawlessly. Then, the cracks began to show. Business deals Adam had been working on mysteriously fell apart, only for Eric to emerge as the one closing them himself. Private concerns Adam had shared in confidence suddenly became public knowledge, whispered back to him in altered forms, making him seem unreliable, even paranoid. But the worst part was the gaslighting. When Adam confronted Eric, he was met with casual dismissals. "You're overthinking it. Maybe you just misunderstood. I'd never do that to you." And yet, the pattern was undeniable. The very person he had trusted most had systematically undermined him, not with obvious attacks, but through subtle, patient deception. This is what makes the false friend so dangerous. Unlike an open enemy, they don't argue with you. They don't threaten, they don't challenge you directly. Instead, they embed themselves into your world, disarming you with kindness, making you believe they are your greatest supporter. And once they have access to your secrets, your habits, your weaknesses, they turn that trust into a weapon. A Stoic would warn against blind trust, not out of cynicism, but out of an understanding of human nature. Marcus Aurelius himself observed that those who rush to prove their loyalty are often the ones most likely to betray you. A real friend earns trust over time, through actions, not words. But a false friend, they fast-track the process, breaking down your defenses before you even realize you need them. Think about the people in your life. Has someone recently taken an unusual interest in you? Have they gone from a distant acquaintance to an eager confidant, wanting to know every detail, where you go, who you spend time with, what your deepest insecurities are? Do they present themselves as your biggest cheerleader, yet subtly fuel your doubts and fears? A true friend wants what's best for you. A false friend wants access, and access in the wrong hands is dangerous. History is full of betrayals that followed this exact pattern. Julius Caesar never expected Brutus, someone he trusted as a close ally, to be among his assassins. But as Seneca warned, a prosperous man often has the most to fear, not from his enemies, but from his friends. When you have something valuable, your success, your peace of mind, your stability, there will always be those who seek to take it. And the easiest way to do that isn't through force, it's through deception. So, how do you protect yourself? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to sudden shifts in how people treat you. If someone is too eager to befriend you, too insistent on knowing your every thought, ask yourself why. Real friendships take time. A false friend moves quickly because their goal isn't connection, it's control. The second step is patience. A genuine friendship develops naturally, but a manipulative person accelerates the process, trying to earn your trust before you've had a chance to see their true character. If someone seems too good to be true, they probably are. Finally, protect your inner world. Not everyone deserves to know your plans, your fears, your vulnerabilities. Epictetus wisely warned that the more you reveal of yourself, the more you give others the power to use it against you. Choose carefully. The greatest danger isn't always from those who oppose you. It's from those who stand close enough to whisper in your ear while holding a knife behind their back. Be kind but not blind. Be open but not exposed. And above all, never mistake rapid closeness for genuine friendship. Time reveals true intentions. Let it do its work. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. 4. The gradual attack. No one descends into violence without warning. Before a storm breaks, the air thickens, the sky darkens, and the wind shifts. Nature always gives a signal. People do too. When someone harbors true malice, they rarely act impulsively. They test, they escalate, they observe, pushing a little further each time to see how much they can get away with before revealing their full intentions. And if you fail to recognize these signs, you may not realize the danger until it's too late. Take John F. Kennedy's assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald. For example, Oswald didn't wake up one day and suddenly decide to assassinate a sitting president. His descent into violence followed a pattern, one that had been building for years. He had a history of aggression, defiance, and ideological obsession. He defected to the Soviet Union and then returned to the United States with a growing sense of resentment and alienation. Before Kennedy, he had already attempted assassination once, targeting retired General Edwin Walker, a right-wing figure he viewed as an enemy. That attempt failed, but it was a critical warning sign of what was to come. He tested his ability, refined his plan, and escalated in secrecy. By the time he took his final shot, his path to violence had long been in motion. This is how escalation works. It never starts with outright violence. It begins with a joke, one that carries an edge, but just enough ambiguity to be brushed off. Then it turns into small, seemingly accidental violations, standing too close, brushing against you with just a little too much force, blocking your way in a conversation. Next, it becomes subtle threats, remarks disguised as humor, casual references to violence, words meant to provoke fear, but coated in plausible deniability. And with every step, they watch. If you laugh it off, they push further. If you say nothing, they take it as permission. Every action is a test to see how far they can go before meeting resistance. History is filled with examples of violence that followed this exact pattern. Mark David Chapman, the man who murdered John Lennon, did not wake up one morning and decide to pull the trigger. He spent months lurking, watching, lingering near the Dakota building where Lennon lived. He tested his presence, waited for reactions, and played out his obsession in his mind. He even got Lennon's autograph just hours before the murder, standing beside him as if he were just another fan. There were warning signs, disturbing remarks to friends, erratic behavior, but they were dismissed as the ramblings of someone odd, but harmless, until he wasn't. Stoicism teaches that true strength does not come from ignoring danger, but from recognizing it without fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, refusing to acknowledge a problem does not make it disappear. Avoiding confrontation does not make a threat go away. It only gives it more space to grow. Those who test boundaries do so because they assume they won't be stopped. And for those who remain silent, the consequences can be devastating. So, what do? The first step is recognizing the pattern. If someone repeatedly makes violent remarks, exhibits aggressive behavior, or consistently invades your personal space, do not dismiss it as harmless. People who joke about destruction are often testing how much they can say before someone takes them seriously. The second step is setting boundaries immediately. A Stoic does not react with fear, but neither do they tolerate unnecessary threats. Address the behavior firmly and clearly. If someone continues to push, remove yourself from their reach. Some people escalate only because they believe no one will resist. When you show them that they will meet resistance, many stop, and finally, take action before it's too late. If a situation continues to escalate, document interactions. Keep records of threats, repeated inappropriate behavior, or any signs that indicate a shift toward danger. Seek support, whether from management, authorities, or those in positions of influence who can intervene. Distance yourself if necessary. Seneca warned, "A sword never kills anybody by itself. It is merely the hand that wields it." Violence does not erupt without cause. It is preceded by warning signs. The sooner you recognize them, the better your chances of stopping the danger before it fully unfolds. Musical fear thrives in ignorance, but knowledge, awareness, action, and a refusal to ignore the obvious turns fear into power. No one falls into chaos without first taking small steps toward it, and no one prevents disaster by pretending it does not exist. The question is, when the wind shifts and the sky darkens, will you notice in time? 5. The long game. Some threats are loud, reckless, and impulsive. They reveal themselves in the heat of the moment, shouting, confronting, acting on emotion. These threats are easy to see, easy to predict, and easy to avoid. But the ones you should fear the most, they are the silent ones, the patient ones, the ones who wait. A truly dangerous enemy doesn't act in anger. They act with calculation. They study, they listen, they gather information, and when the moment is right, they strike in a way that ensures you never saw it coming. Unlike the obvious aggressor who gives you the chance to prepare, the patient enemy moves in the background, unnoticed, making sure that when they finally act, the damage is irreversible. Think about the people in your life. Has anyone ever taken an unusual interest in your personal details? Not just the small talk. Real details, your future plans, your relationships, your ambitions, your fears. Some ask out of genuine care, but others, they ask because information is power. They're mapping out your movements, waiting for the right moment, ensuring they know exactly where and when you will be most vulnerable. The problem is, these people rarely set off alarm bells. In fact, they often present themselves as the least threatening person in the room. History has shown time and again that the deadliest betrayals do not come from known enemies, but from trusted allies. Julius Caesar never feared his rivals in battle. He feared Brutus least of all. And yet it was Brutus, the man he trusted, who stood among his assassins. People like this don't lash out. They embed themselves in your world, playing the long game, ensuring they are close enough to you that when they move against you, you are too entangled to escape. And that's why the patient enemy is the hardest to detect. They don't argue. They don't show envy. They don't express resentment. Instead, they support you, encourage you, position themselves as someone you can rely on. They make you feel safe. They collect details about your life, your weaknesses, your struggles, not out of friendship, but out of preparation. And then, when the opportunity presents itself, they act in a way that ensures you cannot recover. Maybe it's an employer who pretends to value your contributions, only to slowly push you out. Maybe it's a business partner who agrees with all your decisions, only to undermine you when you're most exposed. Maybe it's someone in your personal life, a friend, or even family member, who waits until they have maximum influence before they make their move. Marcus Aurelius warned about trusting appearances too easily, writing, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A patient enemy understands this well. They disguise their true nature beneath layers of false kindness, allowing you to paint them as an ally until the moment they decide to show you otherwise. So, how do you protect yourself? First, be mindful of those who take a deep and persistent interest in your private life. Not everyone who asks about your future is a threat, but if someone seems unusually invested in every detail, take note. Second, never give away more than necessary. The Stoics believed in self-sufficiency. Rely on your own judgment rather than placing blind trust in others. Finally, trust patterns, not words. A true friend proves themselves over time, not just through what they say, but through how they act when they have nothing to gain. A patient enemy waits until you lower your guard. Don't let them. If you recognize this pattern in someone, understand this: you are not dealing with a minor rivalry, but a calculated threat. And in such cases, survival depends not on reacting to danger, but on seeing it long before it ever reaches you. Before you click away, I need you to do two things. First, save this video. The signs you've learned today aren't just interesting. They could be the thin line between awareness and being blindsided. The biggest threats aren't always the ones that shout. Sometimes they're the ones that smile. Second, watch the next video on your screen. It'll show you how to recognize covert manipulators, because the kind of people we've talked about today rarely work alone. They wear masks, and the more you understand their patterns, the harder it is for them to play you. If this video opened your eyes, let me know in the comments by writing what I see clearly, because once you recognize these signs, you can never unsee them. And if you want to keep sharpening your instincts, protect yourself and stay 5 steps ahead, hit that subscribe button. Knowledge is power, but action keeps you safe. Stay sharp, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one.